Hey everybody, this is Razib with the Khanversation, and I am here with my usual compatriot Josiah Neely of R Street and other places. I have another another Substack podcast place where I write things at unsupervised learning. I think you all know that, but you never know what people don't know. So sometimes you just have to like remind them. Also, some of you have reviewed our podcast at Apple and places like that. Those of you who have not, please do it. That will help us get the word out. And as most of we have a gated part of the podcast that is on the Substack domain, and then everything else before the gated part is free, and we put it on Apple and YouTube and everything like that. So those are the logistics. We are here with a very special guest, and I do want actually maybe a very, very special guest. It's not two varies. We're here with Brendan Hodge. So weird thing here for those of you who are youths. Brendan and I have been internet friends. We have not met IRL yet, but that will happen, inshallah. But we have been internet friends for over 20 years. So that's a long time. It goes back to the first Bush term. We read each other's blogs, kind of engaged with each other. I guess we were both youths then. We are no longer youths. A whole cycle of life has turned, and now Brendan is on a podcast with me and Josiah Neely, and it turns out Brendan has known Josiah for a very, very long time as well, which was yeah. Yeah, exactly. So me and Josiah in parallel, we did not know each other until 9 years
never
ago.
heard of Razib Khan 20 years ago,
Oh, seriously? I would have thought you would be a gene expression reader from way back in the day.
No. I was a lawyer, so I didn't know anything about science, I learned about genetics from reading Slate magazine, It's like,
Yeah. Thank you. What was that guy's name? Salatin. Thanks, Will Salatin, for red pilling Josiah. I'm sure your Bulwark colleagues would be very happy to know that.
You could get the Bulwark if you talk about him too much. So,
well, no, actually, like it's not just you. Well, I mean, I'm gonna say not the name, but Josiah will know who I'm talking about. But now, there is an administration official who was also red pilled by Will Salatin. So I think Will Salatin red pilled a lot of people. So thank you for your service, William. And I guess the point there is like you never know where life takes you. So Brendan, we know each other, kind of the intersection of science and religion, that sort of stuff. You are Catholic, just like Josiah, and you are interested in science and all sorts of things.
First, and I'm gonna, because you're really a Renaissance man, so I'm gonna mention a couple of things. First, you got your own podcast and Substack, which is Pricing Evolution, right?
Yeah, pricing-evolution.com. So that is, it's sort of my professional newsletter and podcast. So the articles are all about pricing and the impacts of pricing on the world. And then I've got a podcast, which is weekly when I'm not dealing with tariffs all the time. Now it's very slightly more than weekly. But yeah, the last episode was all about tariffs. And if you can believe that pricing could be interesting, I can follow through on the promise.
Okay, and then you're also a novelist. I know you did the World War I book? Did that ever come out, or is that just
that is still my my long slug project? I guess I need to be like Ross Douthat and just put it on Substack or something. I don't know, but yeah. So I did have a novel called If You Can Get It. Came out from Ignatius Press, so at real though very small publisher. That came out in 2020, available on Amazon and all other places where good books are sold. And it's kind of a comedy set in the business and Silicon Valley world.
Okay. And then the other blogs and other stuff, I don't think that's for money. So, I mean, if you want to promote them, you can, but you're
yeah, to be honest, my other things are moderately dormant. I do still post a few times a month at Darwin Catholic, which is how Razib and I first met 20 years ago, back when he was on science blogs. And as a Catholic interested in science, that was like he was my favorite atheist science blogger.
Yeah, I remember you specifically said that like phrase.
I mean, a little bit easier to get along with than Pusey Myers, and I feel like your subsequent careers have sort of underlined maybe like more stable and intellectual as well.
Well, yeah, PZ's still doing the same thing, right?
He went like super DEI and stuff, didn't he?
And they all did. Wait, did
No,
he commit
not
suicide
Jerry.
because he's white male? No, Jerry Coyne did not.
Yeah.
Jerry Coyne did not. Jerry Coyne did not. Jerry's a dinosaur. He's a paleo liberal. I had drinks with Jerry Coyne in Chicago a couple of years ago. He's a good guy. He's funny.
Yeah, there was that whole sort of new atheist split there, and it seemed like most people went the super woke route, and then a few sort of became strangely based.
Colin Wright. They went the Colin Wright, which is like I predicted Colin's trajectory. I do have to say, I'm just gonna I've said this before. You know what really is annoying though? People that like they don't know my body of work. They're just like, oh, you used to be a new atheist, and I'm just like, I was never a fucking new atheist. I was always an atheist. You know, it's just like I've always been right wing. I've always been an atheist because like some journalist recently was just like, your trajectory from being a liberal to a conservative. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, well, you wrote for the New York Times, and I was like, yeah, and I lost that gig because I wrote for Tacky Mag. Like, what?
Yeah, they've been accusing you of being a Nazi for like 20 years now. So I feel like,
oh, okay. Like, actually, like, I will say,
strange new respect area.
No, so I'm gonna mention this because I think it's funny. So at NatalCon, apparently the Antifas, there were 3 people. I got a call from Maddie Kearns of Free Press. She was like, so I was talking to the Antifa, and there's 3 people that they said were like problematic white nationalists that were speaking at NatalCon: Jack Prosobiec, Lomez, Jonathan Kieperman, and me. And she was like, "Do you have a comment on being a white nationalist?" I was like, I don't really know.
It's like, I run a site called Brown Pundits.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't really know what to say. You know, it's just like it will be like, I don't know. It's like look at me. I don't.
My people came down from the steppes with horses,
taking over everything. Even white nationalism is brown now.
It's like Indians are taking over white nationalism. That's a whole separate podcast, but that's a real thing, right? It's a real thing. Like so many of these like white nationalists like Twitter accounts turn out to be guys in India that are just engagement farming. You know, they're taking the jobs of hardworking American white supremacists. You know, it's like H-1Bs are taking the white nationalists. Like, you know, it's like you can go to like a white nationalist company and everyone there is Indian all of a sudden.
Doing the punditry that Americans don't want to do anymore.
Well, Indians can make up for it in volume in terms of quantity, right? In terms of like, you know how they are. It's a cultural difference. Like they're very loquacious people. Like, no, I love the Indians. Don't, you know. No hate mail or hate email or whatever. Yeah, so it's weird, Brendan. It's like, we've engaged for like decades now. I didn't know that you did all these different things. I did not know the deep lore of Brendan Hodge that Josiah did. You know,
I mean, I have to wonder myself because he's also got a large number of kids. So it's like, where does he find the time to do? He must have like just very good time management.
You do, bro. Wait, what's your head count? What's your head count now?
We have 7 kids.
What?
Kids.
Okay.
Oldest is 23 and the youngest is 7.
Wow, dude. You have 7 kids. I don't know, man. Like, not gonna say anything about that. Like, I mean, like, yeah. I should.
I've heard all the
chat.
jokes.
Like,
you don't need to.
I'm not joking.
It is evolutionary success. I should see if I could get like a deal on attending NatalCon next year. That.
Oh, you should.
I should get a discount, right?
They were giving out like discounts based on how many kids you had for various.
Yeah, Jonathan Keeper at Passage Press was giving out discounts based on like, how many kids you had.
What was the highest kid count that you met there?
9.
It was okay. Yeah, that's up there.
There was
a family there that brought their kids, or at least some of them that had 9. So
solid.
Yeah, I think there was. I think there was a pastor. I think he had 12. There was a pastor there that had 12.
Yeah.
He was super old, but he didn't bring his kids. They're probably older than us, whatever. But yeah, there are people that get up there. I mean, Kevin Dolan's at 6, and his wife is like early 30s. So they're gonna keep going. They're gonna keep going until it's just like not goatable, So yeah, no, God bless you, man. Like, I mean, it's like that's a big deal. I admire you, what you've done, all these different things you've done. And yeah, I think like this is a man here, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's like some of us don't grow up, some of us don't grow up, and no comment here. Some people have said certain things about my behavior patterns, and you've over the last 20 years that we've kind of like tangentially known each other, you've gotten a lot done and you've achieved a lot in the world, and that's great. That's what we want in this country. Fewer talkers, more doers. I think Josiah and I, some of the podcasts we've had like been a little negative right now, but it's because we think this country can do great things. American people can do great things, and we just need to unleash. Okay, just from the perspective, like from a conservative perspective, it's like, why do we want deregulation? Why do we want the free market? We just want to unleash the talents of our people, and that's what I'm worried about. I don't like hate America. I'm not a globalist, whatever. I just think like we can compete and we can beat everybody else. That's what I actually think. Not only can we beat everyone else, we can like it's a non-zero sum game. We can like cooperate. We can just do all these great things. Like, I'm not like being paid by AEI or Cato, but like this used to be mainstream thinking among our set. It's just like, it's starting to give me a little angst because, we already have a party that's about regulating and, kind of like restricting, let's just say the energies of our people in some ways because they want to channel growth, smart growth, like, I'm just like, grow, just like grow. Cause you don't know what's smart because you don't know what the future holds. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so you have 7 kids, Brendan. You don't know like what your kids are going to turn out like, but like, it's great, right? It's like, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, no, it is. The wildest thing as you have kids transitioning into adulthood there is just realizing, especially like as they hit their teens and into adulthood, that it's not just that they're not carbon copies of you or your wife or mix of the two. It's like it is this complete scatter. And I mean, dude, this is why we want America to continue to be great and be full of opportunity and flexibility to do things, is because, I mean, I want my kids to have cool jobs. I want them to own houses. I want them to run businesses.
That's what I'm trying to say. And over the last a week, there's been in these United States, there's been a lot of, I don't know what to say. There's been a lot of turmoil in the markets, turmoil in economic policy and tariffs. Josiah and I talked about tariffs last week. It was a very popular episode, actually. I think candidly, people appreciate it. We just said what we thought instead of trying to make an argument based on an outcome that we want. Like, oh, there's like a secret plan, trust the secret plan, trust the secret plan. I don't know. I mean, I guess I remember, I'll just tell you guys, Monday night, I came home from hanging out with some friends and I was going to like do some work and I was just doom scrolling. And yeah, I was like, you finally did it, retards. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I just like, wait, is this okay, so I saw, I'm not, yeah. You finally, because I was watching the T-bills, the interest rates were going up on the treasuries, right? And before we like jump into it, I guess my understanding is basically the treasuries, these treasury bills, these bonds, they're basically showing the confidence that the markets have in your country. So if you have to pay out a higher interest rate, that's expensive for you. So you're borrowing, right? As people are like buying these bonds. And if you have a low interest rate, that means that they think you're such a good investment that you don't have to pay them that much money to borrow the money. When the interest rates spike up, that means that you're a bigger risk. And in the 1990s, back in our youth, interest rates had gotten high enough that it was causing problems with our debt service. I believe the budget deficit for the first Clinton administration. And James Carville, Clinton's advisor, said if he was going to die, he wants to come back as a bond market because that's like absolute power. basically because it was dictating American policy because money is important. Money drives the world, and when money gets expensive, a lot changes. And we actually know this in the United States right now because we had the zero interest rate period for about a decade after like the financial crisis of 2008, and that was when a lot of these tech companies just slurped up enormous amounts of employees. A lot of them were actually just useless, but they had pretty much free money. Inflation was extremely low, and they had like zero. They had like all these like money that they could over leverage. And the biotech companies like 23andMe, for example, who some of you know is in the news because of its bankruptcy, they actually over leveraged themselves. The interest rates go up, and they can't service their loans. Okay, and so if the interest rates go up, like if the T bills go up, the interest rates overall are going to go up. Well, our credit cards are more expensive. All these variable loans that people took out are more expensive. Obviously, not good for the economy. Everything is more expensive. You consume less. There could be some sort of spiral and, a recession because people consume less, then businesses make less money, and then they invest less, et cetera, et cetera. All of these knock-on effects. So I'm watching this. I think it's like a Central Time. I'm here in Austin. About 11, and I just was like, I don't even know anymore, and then like I'm seeing people like Benny Johnson say, well, you don't need all these nice things, and I'm like, okay, wait. Did the did the Democratic Socialists of America take over? I mean, that was another weird thing because a lot of the rhetoric points were very, very kind of like, you don't need your banana in the middle of winter, okay? Capitalist pig. So that's how I'm feeling. I've been talking for a while. Josiah, I don't know if you want to say something before we let the guest speak. I do let the guest speak eventually. I know some of you complain about that.
Eventually, sometimes it takes longer than others. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I let me say this before we get into like some of the economics of it or whatever. But he did. So I think that the ask, to the extent that we had an ask, was I wanted Trump to pull back on the tariffs, and he did, right? Except on China. So I think that's good. There's still like the 10% global tariff, and it's like 90 days to negotiate 70 deals or whatever. That's going to be impressive if they can do that or whatnot. But it does seem like it's a positive that he drew back a little bit, and so that's what I'll say about that. Brendan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
You're not a mute, bro.
That's right. Well, so I in addition to knowing you two from different sources, I guess for many years, what I edged into around the time that I'd first met Razib was I got into doing pricing. So at the time I was working at Dell Technologies, and I got into doing pricing there, and then since then I've managed pricing at Wendy's, at Scotts Miracle-Gro, and now I'm at an industrial tools company that does like tungsten carbide and diamond. And as a result, we have a global footprint. We've got plants in Taiwan. We've got plants in Mexico, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and then multiple plants in the U.S. And I think in that sense, we're like a lot of companies in that we've got a footprint that was built during this period where tariffs were basically zero. And you build a lot on the assumption that tariffs are going to be like that. And so it's like it's kind of like if you just like took all of the continents and smashed them together, so suddenly like all the plants and animals were mixed up, and like, hey guys, new ecosystem, figure it out. We've changed all the stakes, we've changed all the rewards, and so from a pricing point of view, and then like just a lot of manufacturing and operations stuff, we and a lot of other people are scrambling around trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do you operate in this new environment? And it takes up a massive amount of time and friction just trying to deal with not just the change, but also the fact that it changes every single day. I sent a message to one of my colleagues on the tax side yesterday. Is like, now it's 145%. Can we just go home yet? But so you've got the constant changes all the time, and then it's the overall change in how things work, and it creates just a massive amount of churn, and frankly, a lot of things that are not going to work. and we're going to be much more expensive in the new environment. We can dive into some of that, but in that sense, listening to you guys last weekend was sort of it. Well, okay. The worrying thing is, it reminded me a lot of. I still remember like where I was walking around with my AirPods in, listening to you guys talk about. Yeah, this COVID thing is really bad, and things could go south. And I remember I was going through a mostly empty grocery store, stocking up on toilet paper and bleach and stuff like this, and listening to this and thinking, "Oh shit!" And
So
that's kind of how it's been.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely the lab leak version of the COVID. Like, this was self-inflicted.
Yeah, I mean, if you picture like Fauci like being an angry orangutan with a baseball bat, just like smashing test tubes all over.
That is how I picture him most times. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So I want to talk a lot about the tariffs or whatever, but just just for a minute or two, talk about pricing in general, because uh, this is an interesting field that you're in. It's always fascinated me because, of course, pricing, like you think like someone's got to be able to set the price of the Wendy's, number 3 combo or whatever. And I don't really think about like, well, how does that happen? Like, what goes into that? I assume it's just not. They're not like, well, this seems like a good, $5, sure, why not? So like, I obviously, I assume can get a little complicated, but like basically how does that work? Like, how do you figure out what the price should be for a industrial carbine, tungsten, iron, whatever it is?
Yeah, so it's a lot of times when I tell people that I do pricing, like, oh, so you must do a lot of psychological stuff, like, is 99 cents better than 95 cents? And I mean, that you read a little bit of sort of behavioral psychology stuff on how people react to different price points and so on. And that matters more in B2C, like direct to consumer kind of stuff. But honestly, in most companies, pricing sits within the finance organization. It is a very numbers driven kind of thing. And so you've got really kind of two areas. One is a very sort of financial analysis. You need to model out um, how much do our different products cost us? What is the value that the products deliver to customers? And so what's their willingness to pay on different products? And so kind of how can you meet in the middle there to get to prices that customers will pay, that will, once you put the portfolio of products together, produce the kind of profits that you're looking for? And how do you keep inching that up over time? And also, a certain amount of that ends up being sort of product viability, because especially like in a shakeup like this, you'll take a look at what some of the products cost to make and deliver, and the answer is basically that yeah, this product is no longer viable at the prices that people are willing to pay, and so you get to deliver that kind of news. And then from the other side, there is a different numbers driven sort of approach, which is what people often call price optimization, which is taking a people will ask me in the office if it's big data. It is not big data. For those of you who actually know and care what the definition of big data is, it is lots of small data. It is like a few 100,000 or a few million records, but you're looking at basically all the transactions that you sold a particular product, and what customers paid for that product at different times, at different situations. You'll potentially segment those customers out. So you're looking at kind of a few different clusters of types of customers you're selling to. And then you'll basically draw a curve and say, this is kind of the sweet spot of where I'm winning the right number of bids with that customer, or I'm getting the right number of sales with this type of customer in this area of this product. And so this is kind of where I can maximize, because you'll have two curves that are separate, the revenue curve and the margin curve. And depending on how much margin is built into a product, those can be pretty separate, or they can overlap a lot. So you can drive more towards revenue. I want to sell more units, book more dollars, but at lower revenue. Or you can drive more towards the margin side. I'm selling fewer units, but I'm more profitable on each unit. And what you're trying to do with that sort of mathematical optimization analysis is figure out where's the peak of each one of those curves, and where do I want to sit between those peaks in terms of maximizing dollars, maximizing profits.
All right. Well, yeah. I'm very, very interesting type of
Charge as much as the market as the consumer will bear, right?
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you need to not get totally. There is a bit of an art side to it where if you get totally greedy and you just price the heck out of your customers in the near term, you will exhaust them to the point where you can't take more pricing until you start losing volume. And so you need to have some sense of how the market develops over time, and not to push it too hard on that curve so that you can get more pricing gains each year. But sometimes you will have companies that, like, we have an event coming up, we need to show a lot of EBITDA because we're trying to get ready for sale, push the pedal down. And so then you're trying to figure out how much can we get without turning down the revenue.
Yeah. So I guess just think about this as it applies to the tariffs or whatever. So I mean, you have a very like simplistic model. Let's forget for a second the fact that the rates are not the same for different countries or whatever, right? Because I guess that could complicate it. But just like it's simple, you think about it. Okay, stuff that comes into the country foreign has this extra cost added to it from the tariff. Um, and then but stuff that's made here does not, right? So I guess the first question is like, if that happens, I was listening to some podcast and they said, oh well, the analysis is that if you had a 10% tariff, 40% would be dealt with the currency appreciation, and 40% would be paid for by the importer, and 20% would go on to the consumer. Like, what? Like, how does that work in terms of like? I care about like what I have to pay. I
Yeah.
I'm like it's fine. It's I feel for the businessman or whatever, right? But what I most care about is like what I have to pay, like what gets passed on to me. So is that like something where it's just like, okay, if it's a 10% tariff, you got to pass on the 10%, or can you not pass on the 10%, or like you don't have to pass on the 10% because someone else is paying it in China? Like how does that work?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and we don't we don't 100% know yet, which is why a lot of us are very busy, because people are trying to figure out those trade-offs.
Yeah.
Because within any business, you'll have a series of businesses that touch a product as it goes from where it's made to an American consumer. And within any one of those chains, you've got people who have different incentives and like have a pain point that they're going to hit where they will not accept any more pain, will pass on price instead. So the trade-offs are, everyone is worried if they increase the price, they will not sell as many units. And that gets bad because you have a lot of costs even if you don't sell anything. I mean, until you like liquidate the company and shut it entirely down. So like when I was at Wendy's, we would joke about, hey, this whole thing would be so much simpler if we could just sell one $5,000 hamburger each day and then be done. Because we wouldn't have to have the shift workers around all the time. We wouldn't have to deal with all this food coming through. Just like the one customer comes through, they buy their $5,000 hamburger, like you're good for the day. The downside of that, obviously, is there are not many people who want $5,000 hamburgers from Wendy's. But you would still, if you picture this example of the $5,000 burger joint, you still have your burger joint. You do need to be there and be ready to serve out that one hamburger. So you've got a bunch of fixed costs even in that situation. So like for us, we're running plants where we crank out, like grab one example. We sell carbide rods, which is one of our more standardized products, and picture a drill bit that does not yet have the fluting in it. Okay. So we sell that to a tool maker, which will then cut the fluting into it and turn it into a metal cutting drill bit or end mill, which they'll use for cutting aircraft aluminum, sheet steel, titanium. Like it's used for cutting metal specifically. It's a higher end product than like the tungsten carbide drill bit you'd buy at Lowe's. So we're selling that product. If our volume going through the plant goes down by 20%, so we're selling fewer rods, Yeah, we can shorten people's shifts a little bit, but a lot of it is people stand around more. The plant just becomes less efficient. So our costs are basically the same.
Yeah.
The only thing we're buying less of is the metal that goes into the rods. So at that point, you're willing to take a certain amount of pain in order to sell the same amount of stuff because you have all these fixed costs that you're going to pay no matter what. And then you have your variable cost, which is the actual rods cranking through the factory, which you buy tungsten carbide powder, you press it, you furnace it, you send it out. So so you have companies that are on the one hand they're trying not to pass on price because they want to keep their volumes up and cover fixed costs. On the flip side, if it gets painful enough, they have to increase their price somewhat, and so they'll increase their price, and then the next person down the path. So like we sell it to a tool maker who's going to put that metal fluting in and then sell it to like Boeing or Ford, where it's going to be used in a plant to actually drill holes or cut sheet metal. So that tool maker is going to decide, okay, the product that I used to buy for $15 is now $16. I'm going to now add fluting to it and sell it for $30. Should I price it up to $32? Should I not? So they're going to have to make a decision before they then pass it on to the next step, and then Boeing is going to decide, like, do I buy it or not? In that sort of chain, it could be that everyone's going to decide to become a little bit less profitable, or it could be that they're going to decide to pass it on when it's pretty small. So one of the theories that's floating around out there is people saying, well, if we really wanted to be protectionist, we would sort of announce this grand plan where we're putting in 2% tariffs this year, and next year is going to become 4%, and the year after that it'll become 6%, and you like ramp it up over time. That both starts out with small amounts that people can pay, but it also lets them know that it's going to get worse over time, and so it gives them time to try to shift how they're manufacturing things and do what you want them to do with that incentive push to do more of your work within the U.S. and not be bringing in parts as much. So that sort of thing is a smaller rate like that. You're more likely to pass on. I mean, I had a conversation yesterday about product we ship to China. So we do actually sell several $1 million worth of material to China, and it is pretty high end stuff. But I mean, you're not going to absorb an 85% tariff. And as of this morning, it's now 125%. So it's like someone was drawing all over a whiteboard. Well, what if we took when you're doing international sales like that? You'll have your U.S. plant, you produce your product, you would sell it then to either a Chinese distributor or you have, in our case, like we have a sales unit in China, so we would do a transfer price to China, which acts as our internal distributor, and then they would sell that to the end customer. And the reason is because that local country, whether it's China or France or whatever, Mexico, they want an entity that makes money in that country that they can tax. So they don't want the product to just show up and they're trying to figure out how to tax some company in the US. They want like an end seller in their country that they can tax. So you're required to have some endpoint in that country which is doing the transaction and can be taxed as a profit making entity within that country. So someone was drawing like all of this sort of crazy accountant math all over the whiteboard. Well, if we took the transfer price down to this, and then the tariff would only be this, and we could, and it was like, guys, it's 85%. Either they can't live without it, in which case they will pay 185% of the original price, or they can live without it, in which case we're not making the sale. So like, there's no reason why we should cut our profits by 50% on this product because we're either selling it or we're not. So just pass it all through. And I think there is we've seen like Walmart and Amazon are saying, like, Amazon said they've been stockpiling a bunch of products so they can continue to sell cheap as long as possible. We saw like the airplanes of iPhones coming in to beat the tariff. Walmart has said that they're going to try to hold the line on prices, but I mean, when we're talking 100+% tariffs going back and forth with China, it's very hard to absorb. And honestly, even the 10% that still remains, like as a company that's like split 50-50, Europe and North America's, if you have a lot of product lines that are only making 10 to probably like 20 to 30% overall profit when you look at like the different units that are booking their profits, you're not going to take 10% out of that. You'd be cutting your profits by 50% overall as a company, and no one's going to sustain that well. So yeah, prices have to go up to some extent, and it's just going to be a matter of how much.
Okay. And in terms of in terms of timing, so we got this pause now for some of it. But also people have inventory that they already purchased, pre-tariff. Like, when do the prices go up? If you're, I was thinking about this. It's like, if you're considering like, I might need to buy a car in the next year, say, right?
Yeah.
And I don't particularly want to buy a car right now, but they're already pretty expensive. But it's like, well, if I wait 6 months to buy the car or 9 months to buy the car, is that going to really affect the price? Whereas now, even though the tariffs are announced, they're in place or whatever, the prices are not going to go up yet, right? Or a washing machine or whatever it is, a tungsten, drill.
Yeah.
Like what? Like,
Yeah, like I've been getting texts from the place where I bought a dishwasher 6 months ago saying, "Hey, our prices are not up yet. We will sell all current inventory at existing prices. Come in
right,
now." So they're
yeah,
trying to make some sort of lemonade there. Um, uh, so this is the tough thing: is no one knows.
yeah,
Especially because this stuff has been so on and off. I mean, um, we at the company I work for now have come up with mechanisms where we will pass on a tariff surcharge in cases where we have a tariff applied to us, and so we will try to keep that as low as we can because we're trying not to burn our customers, but we will try to cover most of our costs there. But I mean, honestly, one of the things that's been crazy is because this started for us back, with the original Mexico and Canada. We have a plant in Mexico that we own, but we're making a bunch of product there. So we'll like do some work in Michigan, ship product down to Mexico, do more work on it, ship it back to Ohio, do more work on it, sell it to the customer. Um, and when you cross the border coming back from Mexico right now, for some brief periods, if you cross the border coming in from Mexico, you were going to get charged. Now, right now, that's turned off on most kind of industrial kind of products. I mean, like, we have some stuff that goes into the auto industry and so on like that. And there's this list of products which are not currently affected in Mexico, which honestly is a lot of the stuff that's going back and forth. Um, so right now we're not, but there were brief periods where that was turned on. For stuff coming in from China, that's turned on, and we will be having to turn that on for some stuff coming in from Europe. But everyone is having, like, we've already received letters from suppliers before we even instituted those saying, "Hey, just so you know, you buy this product from us, and we're applying a surcharge of 25% on everything coming in from China." And now with this like Looney Tunes escalation where the numbers keep going up on both sides. Um, Trump season, Z season, Trump season, Z season. We've been getting additional letters. So there are letters that are going out to companies saying your costs are going up, but when that's going to hit, Walmart and Target, I think people don't know. And I think one of the things what's either going to happen here is some companies are going to decide that they're going to try to win customers by holding the line and keeping prices down, or they're going to make a big noise about how that they're just going to pass it through, and they'll try to make it pretty visible. And I think we don't know yet how it's going to be. I will say the pricers, I'm connected with a lot of other professional pricers, and the thing everyone is advising there is pass it through and be very transparent so that everyone is clear what is happening here. And then, people, arguably, the reason why the administration decided to like do this 90-day delay on a lot of the higher tariffs while they were sorting out all these deals is because the financial markets were making it very clear that people were unsettled. And I think at some level, a lot of companies are thinking, like, at least with the profit side of their brains, if we pass this through very clearly, everyone will understand what it means. And if there's going to be any relief, it'll be because we made it clear. But then the other side of their brains, which is the don't hate me, I want you to be my loyal customer side of their brains, is saying, if I kind of lay myself down in the road here in front of the bulldozer, maybe I won't get hurt too bad, and the customer will still like me, and maybe something magic will happen, uh, and the tariff will go away.
Well, it's happened before, right? Um, what about, okay, so let's think about, let's say you're an American company who is really just not that exposed to foreign. You don't have, like, you're not buying foreign parts or factories or whatever. So you're not going to pay the tariff that much yourself, right? Maybe some ancillary stuff. So for you, um, are you going to how is that going to affect your pricing decisions? Are you going to want to be like, okay, we have this new cost advantage, let's take advantage of it? Would it make more sense to raise your prices somewhat, right? Since there's going to be more demand for your product, presumably as people are switching over from, those globalist companies.
Yeah.
What?
It's I think, again, people are going to have like the little angel and demon sitting on their shoulders and trying to decide which one to listen to. I know that we obviously are all spread over all over the place, and so we're facing a lot of tariffs. We do have some product lines that are made in North America, and I mean, I if I sort of use the part of me which sits just in that North American product line where we've been facing. I think it is important to underline there's a reason why people are really pissed off about Chinese competition, because if you've been making any kind of consumer product, durable product, machine product in the US, or really anywhere else in the world than China over the last 10, 20 years, they are constantly selling things at really low prices. And it seems pretty clear that there is a strategy of take market share by selling things at below cost in order to it's not just that they have lower labor costs, which they do, and lower environmental regulations, which they do. There are products that, I mean, frankly, we buy from China, where my supply chain guys tell me, I think all our price is paying for is the shipping from the plant to the port. Like, they're basically giving us product for transportation fees in order to gain market share. And so, I mean, there's a reason why people are pissed off about that kind of behavior. And so if you suddenly see, like we did on one of our product lines that's all North America, and we did sort of an analysis of what's going to happen with all the other prices, and it's like, this is great. The Chinese competition is now going to be the most expensive. The European competition is now going to be more expensive than us. We used to be the most expensive in the market, and we're now going to be the cheapest. This is awesome. And so at that point, like you've got like one shoulder angel is saying, call up all the customers, tell them that we're your friend, sell them everything. We can just crank it out like crazy. And then shoulder devil is saying, there's a maximum capacity to our plant. So it wouldn't hurt if we took like a 3 to 5% price increase, just because we probably can't handle all the demand anyways. So we might as well just, take a little bit of profit. So I think companies are going to be listening to those two different characters there and trying to decide whether they should. Do you just go out there and try to gain all the market share? Do you take your prices up a bit? The risk that they will face, and I mean, this is going to sound incredibly jerky, but like, think back to COVID. Okay, so during COVID, there was this push of like we discovered we are not first in line for Chinese PPE, personal protective equipment. So if you want masks, China will sell themselves masks before they sell us masks. And so there was a point there where people were posting videos of like old ladies sewing cloth masks for doctors to wear in hospitals because we weren't getting enough masks. Um, and so there were some companies that made a big deal about, hey, we are setting up mask making here in the US. We're going to sell US based masks. And they sold a bunch for about a year, briefly during the period where you couldn't get them from elsewhere, then a little bit for the period where it was like, yeah, but we got to have some American supply because we got to have supply security. And what if China goes away again? and then those companies went out of business because people stopped buying from them.
Right.
And so there is a lesson there that if you have a footprint where you know that you are going to be more expensive than foreign competition, um, unless like the problem with all this is like it is still possible for Trump to go out of office, for the control of Congress to change, and Congress to vote to overrule the tariffs, et cetera. So like all this stuff could change. So I mean, if I was sitting there as like financial shoulder angel to a U.S. manufacturing company that has the chance to steal a bunch of share, I'd be like, grab as much share as you can, treat your customers well, but be really hesitant about sinking tens or hundreds of millions of dollars into like expanding your plant and doing things that you would have to roll back if that demand goes away again. Like, yeah, go to 3 full shifts, hire more people, do whatever you can to be efficient and crank out as much stuff. But if you go and invest a whole bunch of capital in expanding your plant, and then 9 months from now the tariffs go away, there's a big deal, and suddenly China's cheaper than you again, how are you going to pay off that expansion that you did? So
Yeah.
um, there, this is where there's really not a way to artificially create like this, like the whole post World War II era where everyone felt like they could rely on the fact that tariffs were basically low and that you could operate in this environment where you could put manufacturing different. People made a lot of bets based on that. And now we've kind of shaken up the terrarium and everything is in a different place. And no one's sure if they can bet on this staying for a month or a year or 10 years. I mean, it seems like it's a good bet that it won't last 10 years. So you're not going to make the 10-year bet on investing a whole bunch of money in order to do things domestically that don't make sense domestically. So I think you're going to see, if you are well positioned to benefit from this, I mean, like bonuses are going to be awesome this year. You're going to add that third shift. You're going to try to build as many relationships as you can. All of that stuff is totally legit, but it would be really dangerous for a company to put a whole bunch of investment unless they feel like they have a way that they can count on still being competitive even when the tariffs go away. Because otherwise, it's a totally artificial protection that they've got.
I haven't. I've just been listening. Which I think Brendan, you are articulating in the details and the specific. I mean, some of the worries that I think Josiah and I expressed in terms of volatility and uncertainty last week. I guess the question that I have here is, you know, what is sometimes what is done cannot be undone. The egg cannot be unfried. Um, let's just say that we go back to status quo ante. I mean, from the perspective of someone that's in business, though, do you think that basically there's going to be like, they say tariffs is a tax, and I think like just you describing it, you see how that works. It's like a sales tax or something from the consumer perspective.
Yep.
Prices go up. So is the volatility now going to be something you guys are going to have to price in, because who knows how the tariffs are going to change, because the president, you know, candidly, like, I think the American government gave the president this tariff authority, and it's partly because Congress is not, they can't get their act together to do a lot of these things. Okay. So the president can do it. And like, president's been very careful with that. I mean, there's been targeted tariffs, whatever. Trump has not been careful, right? He took the weapon, and he just like started doing like Conan the Barbarian, like, sword moves in public, and people are getting cut and running away, and at this point, like I don't know if I was a business person. I work I work in the private sector. I don't work in a nonprofit, or anything like that. We don't have too many issues right now, mostly because like we're not like capital intensive hard materials. We're not big supply chains. We're digital, right? But still, now it's just something you always have to think about, like what's gonna happen now. And the issue is like, let's assume that some of these MAGA people, they want autarky. They want autarky now, but like what if Democrat gets elected in 2028 and decides to go totally free trade, and then you built this factory assuming Americans, it's just like either way you're taking a risk, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the sense in which you can't put the genie back in the bottle is, it's just going. Like, I have heard arguments that if you look at certain sectors of the economy that were not close friends with the White House during the Obama years, that there was just less growth and less innovation than you would have expected, particularly like in physical stuff that had maybe environmental risks or NIMBY risks. This was kind of, I mean, we've been getting to that, like, why can't we build stuff state for a long time. But I've heard people argue that during the Obama years, you had more of this because they were willing to just show up and be like, no, you, you are violating environmental regulations. You are violating HR regulations. And they would just hit people with stuff. And so people would just be more cautious and do less. And I think that, I mean, in one sense, businesses are like the perfect, partner to sort of like abusive spouse kind of thing, in that, I mean, like, yeah, you can wave your sword around and do all the Conan the Barbarian moves, and business is just like, guys, all we want to do is do our work and get paid and go home. Could we're willing to make this work, guys, please. And so in one sense, I mean, businesses can't just like take their ball and go home, because like, what are you going to do? We all want to have jobs. But what you are going to, I mean, in a very concrete sense, I mean, like, my company is private equity owned. And one of the things that helps a lot of mid-market to smaller, sort of large, small, not like mom and pop, but, local businesses, is you get these rounds of, like, you'll have some like local active investors, and then you'll move into like a small private equity fund and a larger private equity fund, and all these different things where companies will invest in a company on the theory that they can grow it. They'll make some profits, and it'll give that company capital to kind of move up to the next stage. And sometimes it's done well, sometimes it's done poorly, but it is the way that business in America works, and this is how investment flows into firms, right? Especially if you're not like in this sort of VC angel funding cycle of like companies that could go from 0 to 2 billion within a couple of years. For like your middle of America kind of businesses, your private equity and local active investors are your world, not like VCs and angel investors. And what this does is, I mean, the company is still going to function. It's still going to make money. Yes, everyone will adapt, but everything is going to be like, of all like product launches, expansion into new regions, a lot of stuff that was in our plan for this year is happening way slower than it would have if a whole lot of product managers and sales managers and finance managers were not spending half their time just figuring out what the heck to do about tariffs. And so everything is happening slower, and it's going to be a less profitable year with less revenue and lower profits and lower bonuses. And what that means for a company like this is that it's going to be longer until it gets sold. It's going to be longer until the private equity company makes their money, till the people working there get their bonuses. We like our bonuses, till it expands and employs more people and does more stuff. And so I think that the broader effect, like beyond, like if we went back to zero tariffs right now, what you would see is there would still be a lot of companies out there, like they would keep doing their thing. They would be glad to put their prices back and just go back to doing their thing. But everyone is going to be that much more cautious, both in the US and overseas, about investing in the status quo when they see that the status quo can be disrupted so easily. And so I think you see, like, everyone got super excited the first couple months there. So like between the election in November and like February, there was this period of like, hey, environmental regulations are backing off. We're not going to funnel as much money into DEI. Like, all of this stuff is going to get easier. Like, the business of America could be business again. And the stock market went up, investments were going up. People were pretty optimistic about where things might be going. And then this like, oh crap, they might suddenly tax the heck out of us every time we cross a border. Everyone's going to be like hunkered down. And so it might, in one perverse way, it might actually like flip we've already seen this realignment of college educated professional class being more aligned with the Democrats, and working class sort of multi-ethnic working class party being more aligned with Republicans. Um, there could be a bizarre world in which, next time a Democrat gets elected, the stock market shoots up and all the businesses are excited. I don't know. Or maybe it's just like now there's not a good thing because now we're deciding between the people who might tariff us and the people who might force us to put in DEI committees and hold lots of sessions on how our feelings are today. So like either way, it's like dead weight loss for a business, and we would rather just be selling stuff.
Let me ask.
Yeah. Wait, real quick. Wait, Joe. I want to say something really quickly. As Brendan was talking, I was thinking like, think back to 2012. But even like most of our adult lives, there was a pro-business party and a not so pro-business party. Although sometimes, like say under Clinton, the Democrats were quite business friendly. But the Republicans are definitely the pro-business party, or were. But like, some of these people, how do I say this? Yeah, MAGA shills, whatever. I don't think, look, because there are people that are AEI who have been like Republicans and conservatives forever, and they're like crying. They haven't changed. They're crying bloody murder. But then you have these influencers and some of these, MAGA. I don't know what to call, whatever commentators. They're not. They're saying shitty things about business. You know what I'm saying? It's like you greedy capitalist. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, I'm kind of starting to get stressed out because it's like easy to scapegoat business. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
easy to scapegoat rich people, And like, let me just say this. I tweeted that rich people are good. It's good to have rich people because when your society has rich people, that means your society is rich. I'm not going all trickle down, but like they spend, they invest, they do things. It's like it's the libs, it's Democrats or the socialists that are like, there should be no billionaires, like they say that, and that freaks me out because we know where that went in the 20th century. But now, like the MAGAs, like people are like, some of them are like, you don't need your nice consumer goods. We want to go back to working. They used to say Republicans want to live in the 1950s and Democrats want to work in the 1950s. But now Republicans want to work in the 1950s again too, and I'm like, I don't know. I just gotta put that out there. I'm getting weird, like just vibes from that.
Yeah, it was like a throwback when they had those what were they, the hands-off protests last weekend, and I saw a picture of someone had set up one of these guillotines with like, kill the billionaires. I was like, wow, this is a throwback because I feel like we've been getting a lot of like who cares about big business stuff from MAGA, and that is not what I would have ever expected from the right. It's certainly not the right that I grew up with, and I mean, you gotta there's got to be the split personality within the administration. I mean, I think we all know some people who are working there who are definitely not like business as evil kind of people, and I don't. We've seen a bit of breakout from Elon, but I feel like there's been pretty impressive message control for him not to just be completely riffing all the time. From someone who's not usually good at keeping his mouth shut, but because the if you're running a large business, I can't imagine that there are many people who are far into business who are looking at this and thinking this is a great idea. You'll have people who run like a local excavation business who think this is great, stick it to China. But I think by the time you get to any kind of scale, people see that if anything else, this is not how you would do it. This is not like smart industrial policy.
Yeah. The funny thing is that Trump himself is like a business guy, so it's like he might have more of that perspective. I don't know, but
yeah, I guess the one thing there is if a ton of what you do is own buildings,
right,
that
yeah, maybe,
buildings don't cross borders very often. Usually, probably it's a bad thing when they do.
right, yeah. Well, hey, let's not talk about Ukraine, but uh, I wanted to ask you about something because a couple of times you've referred to like the old zero tariff world, or this world where you could just like sell things, everybody could sell with each other and make stuff, and so on and so forth. And I wanted to ask about that because one of the justifications or things that we've heard about, like why this new tariff policy is necessary, is that okay, we have zero tariffs, or basically that, but other countries, they still have all sorts of blocks on us selling products to them, whether it's Europe or Canada, China, especially, or whatnot. So I know you have experience with like a couple of different businesses. I assume there's like Wendy's in
Yeah.
like Europe or whatever. But like, yeah, I mean, what is your experience in that? Is it like, what's your assessment? Like, are there a lot of real barriers to American products being exported overseas, or is that really not so much of an issue, or like what?
Yeah, so it's a good question. And part of the answer is it depends what you care about. So, like if you want to ship cheese to France, you're going to run into a lot of regulations, not necessarily tariffs, but just a lot of rules about what could be sold and how it could be made and what additives could be in there and so on. Um, but on the other hand, like we all love Wisconsin, but there's not necessarily a huge demand for American cheese in France. And so there aren't a lot of American cheesemakers who are really, really relying on their ability to ship cheese to France. And so some of this is like, if you look across where there are significant barriers, a lot of the biggest ones are in agricultural areas. So there are a lot of, especially developing countries. On the developing countryside, it's that they're trying to they still have very inefficient agriculture where you've got like someone out there with a musk ox plowing a field, and they're trying to make it possible for that person to scrape by their like $500 a year income by doing manual farming. And so they're trying to keep US soybeans from just like flooding into the country. So you do have some agricultural things. And I'm not saying that like it doesn't matter, but I mean, we are one of the biggest agricultural exporters in the world as it is. And there's a limit to what we can produce. So you could argue that there are a lot of barriers that hit us there, but they're probably not hurting us a ton. On the very developed side, if you look at like Europe and so on, they have all these very bespoke rules about what food and like personal products, and like they're not going to buy our Roundup, our glyphosate, because they don't believe in that.
Not
Um,
yet. We'll see how the deal works out.
that's right. Maybe we'll make them take that, and Monsanto will make out
Right.
like crazy.
Yeah.
I will, as a sidebar, just voice that the whole thing about glyphosate and cancer is complete crock, and I would never worry about using it myself after looking at the actual studies of that while it's got. But side note, so there are a lot of areas, especially around agriculture, and then around sort of things very close to the body. So, like, there are a lot of rules in Europe about like shampoos, conditioners, lotions, and so on, which would make U.S. products not sell there as well. But those are also often more localized businesses anyway. When you look at like industrial hard goods, clothing, stuff like that, trade barriers are not generally that high. Um, there are some countries which truly have historically had, pretty high barriers. So like India has moderately high barriers compared to a lot of the rest of the developed world at this point. But even so, we're talking like 10% ish on some kind of hard goods that you might be trying to send there. And it varies a lot, because it's one of the things about tariffs. I mean, as we're seeing with all this deal making, is that it gives government a lever to do a lot of favors, and so it very quickly tends to become complicated as opposed to the sort of flat rates we're seeing here. But I would say that, I mean, as a company that ships like metal products and industrial diamond products all over the world, we've been able to act like they're effectively zero tariffs. And it is also, it's not just that there are some small ones that we pay going to Europe or going to Asia. We also pay some small ones going the other way too. So like some of our products that are coming from Europe into the US, even before all this, we're getting like 3 or 4% tariffs. Because again, there were like industry specific things touching on steel, touching on certain kinds of mechanical things, because they'd been set up to protect specific US industries. And it was a pain. You had to file your forms and use a customs broker and all that. But at the same time, it was the sort of thing that didn't affect your pricing a ton. And so if you're getting hit with a 4% tariff, you may not love it, but it's not that if if your customer is deciding who to buy based on a 4% difference in price due to the tariff, you weren't that much better than your competition anyway. Whereas like you start slapping on like, 10, 20%, okay, that gets hard to work around.
Hope you enjoyed the podcast so far. To listen to the rest of it, please go to khanversation.substack.com.
Two minds met on a summer's eve, each with truths they long believed. Words flowed like a winding stream as hours passed in deep debate. And after all was said and done, they found a thread of common ground. In listening close, they came to see a shared humanity. They spoke of justice, spoke of change, of history's weight and future's range. Their views at first seemed worlds apart, but patience bridged the divide. And after all was said and done, they found a thread of common ground. And listening close, they came to see a shared humanity. They spoke of justice, spoke of change, of history's weight and future's range. Their views at first seemed worlds apart, but patience bridged the divide. It's not about who's wrong or right, but understanding others' light. In civil discourse we can find ties that gently bind. And after all was said and done, they found a thread of common ground. And listening close, they came to see a shared humanity. As dawn broke soft on dewy grass, they smiled and shook hands at last. Two souls enriched by reason talk, united in respect. And after all was said and done, they found a thread of common ground. And listening close, they came to see a shared humanity. This folk song captures the essence of a long, thoughtful discussion between two public intellectuals. It emphasizes the power of patient listening, mutual respect, and the discovery of common ground. The gentle tone reflects the common understanding they reach after their debate. Would you like me to expand on any aspects of the lyrics?